I still remember the smell of rosemary and garlic hanging in the air that night, thick and warm, like it was trying to pretend everything was normal. A roast chicken rested in the center of the dining table, untouched. My appetite was gone before I even sat down. I was 28, working 60-hour weeks in pharmaceutical sales, and I had just come home exhausted, expecting nothing more than a quiet dinner. Instead, I walked straight into what my father called a family discussion. Those words alone made my shoulders tighten. My younger sister Mia sat across from me, scrolling through apartment listings on her phone. She didn't even look up at first. Every few seconds, she sighed loudly, like she wanted the whole table to hear how unfair life was being to her. My mother hovered near the kitchen doorway, twisting a dish towel in her hands as if she were preparing for a fight. My father cleared his throat, slowly carving the chicken with precise, deliberate movements. "Lauren," he said, not meeting my eyes, "we need to talk." That was when I knew this dinner wasn't for me. Mia finally looked up, her expression carefully rehearsed. "My lease ends next month," she said. "Rent prices are insane right now. I literally can't find anything decent within my budget." "There are places if you look outside downtown," I replied evenly. "They're not safe," my mother cut in immediately. "We don't want Mia living somewhere dangerous." "Of course not," my father continued, still focused on his plate. "We've discussed the situation, and the most practical solution is for Mia to move back home, just temporarily." I waited. There was always more. "She'll need your room," he added, finally lifting his gaze. "It's bigger, it has the attached bathroom, and she'll be working from home." For a moment, I genuinely thought I'd misheard him. "My room?" I asked. "You've been here since college," he said calmly. "Maybe it's time you found your own place anyway." The words landed like a physical blow. I had moved back home to help them. I paid $500 in rent every month. I covered groceries, utilities, repairs. I paid for my father's dental work last year. I covered Mia's car insurance for 8 months when she was between jobs. I bought the new refrigerator when the old one died. I had never missed a payment, not once. "You're asking me to give up my room," I said, my voice steady, only because I refused to let it shake. "We're asking you to be reasonable," my mother said. "She's your sister. Family helps family." "I've been helping this family for 6 years," I replied. "Consistently." My father's jaw tightened. "We're not tallying favors at the dinner table." "No," I said quietly. "You're just asking me to leave." "Nobody is asking you to leave," my mother insisted, avoiding my eyes. "You can take Mia's old room. You're barely home anyway." I pictured it instantly, the narrow space barely wide enough for a twin bed, the small window facing a brick wall, the room I had escaped from years ago. Meanwhile, my room, the one I painted myself, installed shelves in, turned into the only place that ever felt like mine, would be handed over without a second thought. "And if I say no?" I asked. Silence. My father set down his knife with deliberate precision. "Then it's time you find your own apartment. You're almost 30, Lauren. Most people your age don't live with their parents." Most people my age weren't guilted into staying home to support their families, I wanted to say. Instead, I stood up. "How long do I have?" I asked. 2 weeks, he replied, already returning to his meal. I looked at my mother, waiting for her to stop this, to say it was too much, too sudden. She didn't. Mia tried to look sympathetic, but I saw the satisfaction behind her eyes. "I'll be out by the end of the week," I said. "Don't be dramatic," my mother started. "I'm not," I replied. "I'm being practical." I walked back to my room, my soon-to-be former room, and closed the door. As I stood there, surrounded by walls I had built into a refuge with my own hands, one thought hit harder than anything else that night. They didn't just take my room. They made it clear exactly where I stood. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed with my laptop open, scrolling through apartment listings until my eyes burned. Studio after studio blurred together. Safe neighborhoods started at numbers that made my chest tighten. Places I could afford came with phrases like "up and coming" and "street parking advised." I closed the tab and stared at the wall. Independence, apparently, came with a price tag designed to punish you for wanting it. By morning, I knew I couldn't go to work. I called in sick for the first time in over a year and drove to a coffee shop a few miles from the house. I parked far from the entrance, ordered a large black coffee, and opened my banking app like I was bracing for impact. $43,000. The number sat there, quiet and unassuming. Money I had saved one careful decision at a time. Money built from bonuses earned after long days and longer drives. Money I had protected, even while paying rent, utilities, groceries, repairs. I stared at it longer than I needed to. That was when the truth finally stopped dodging me. I had spent my 20s being the reliable one, the one who stayed, the one who helped, the one who didn't complain. And despite all of that, nothing in that house belonged to me, not even the room I slept in. Something hardened in my chest. I opened a new tab and started researching real estate around Atlanta. Mortgage rates, first-time buyer programs, neighborhoods quietly appreciating while everyone else chased downtown addresses. The numbers weren't impossible. They were intimidating, but they were real. And real numbers could be worked with. A memory surfaced without warning. My father driving slowly through Buckhead years ago, pointing at a modern house with floor-to-ceiling windows and a 3-car garage. "That's the kind of place we'll retire in someday," he had said. He sounded proud and wistful at the same time. I laughed softly into my coffee. Someday, if they wanted me to leave and stand on my own, then I would. Just not the way they expected. That afternoon, I called a mortgage broker, then a real estate agent. My credit score was solid. My income history was clean. When the broker told me what I could qualify for if I stayed disciplined, my pulse quickened. For the first time since dinner the night before, I felt something that wasn't anger. Control. I went home while my parents were still at work. The house was quiet, like it didn't know yet that it had lost something permanent. I packed only what mattered: clothes, documents, my laptop, a few personal items I couldn't replace, 3 suitcases, 4 boxes. Everything else could stay behind. It had never really been mine anyway. I left my key on the kitchen counter with a short note: moved out early, no need to wait 2 weeks. My phone buzzed while I carried the last box to my car. My sister's name flashed on the screen. I didn't answer. I didn't need an apology wrapped in innocence. I checked into an extended stay hotel near the medical district that night. The room smelled like disinfectant and recycled air. Beige walls, a stiff bed, a kitchenette that looked like it had never known joy. But when I closed the door behind me, something unexpected happened. I breathed. No one could knock and demand explanations. No one could rearrange my life while calling it reasonable. Every inch of that space answered only to me. The messages came quickly. My mother, my father, then my sister again. "Where are you? This is childish. We need to talk. Please come home." I turned my phone off. The anger didn't explode the way I thought it would. It condensed, became sharp, focused, dangerous in the quietest way. I sat at the small desk and opened my laptop again, this time without hesitation. I wasn't looking for a place to survive anymore. I was looking for something no one could ever take from me again. If leaving that house was the price of finally owning my future, then I would pay it. And once I did, I promised myself one thing: I would never be disposable again. The townhouse looked better online. That was my first thought when I stood in front of it for the first time, keys cold in my palm. Up close, it was tired. The paint was faded. The front steps sagged slightly. Inside, the smell hit me immediately. Old carpet, stale air, something faintly sour that told me pets had lived here and been loved a little too freely. Perfect. It was a 3-bedroom townhouse listed at $295,000, well below market value for the area. The reason was obvious the moment I stepped inside. The kitchen looked like it hadn't been touched since the early 2000s. The carpet was stained beyond forgiveness. The bathroom tiles were cracked, some of them loose under my feet. But the structure was solid. The layout made sense. And the neighborhood was changing fast. New businesses, roadwork, a planned transit extension that hadn't hit the headlines yet. Everyone else saw problems. I saw leverage. I put nearly all my savings into the down payment, keeping just enough aside to breathe. When the papers were signed, my hands shook, not from fear, but from the weight of what I'd just done. I owned something, not borrowed, not conditional. Mine. The first night, I sat on the floor with a slice of pizza and no furniture, listening to the hollow echo of my own movements. It didn't feel lonely. It felt earned. My days became brutally structured. I worked my sales territory from morning to evening, suit pressed, smile practiced, presentations memorized. At night and on weekends, I changed into old clothes and gloves. I ripped out carpet myself, discovering hardwood floors underneath that needed refinishing but were still strong. I watched tutorial videos at midnight and learned how to retile a bathroom. I painted walls until my shoulders burned. For the kitchen, I hired a contractor. I knew my limits, but I installed the backsplash myself, every tile placed slowly, deliberately. Each improvement wasn't just cosmetic, it was proof. I wasn't just surviving, I was building. At work, something shifted. The same discipline I brought home, I brought into every client meeting. I studied prescribing data. I anticipated objections before they were spoken. I stopped being good and became undeniable. By the end of the year, my numbers were climbing fast. In January, my bonus hit my account, $48,000. I stared at the deposit confirmation longer than I should have. It felt unreal. A year ago, I was arguing over a bedroom. Now, I was holding momentum. The townhouse appraised higher than I expected. Instead of selling, I made a decision that felt counterintuitive, but right. I rented it out. The rent covered the mortgage, and then some. For the first time, money came in while I slept. I hired a property management company and let go of the daily stress. That was when I realized something important. Growth wasn't about doing everything yourself. It was about knowing when to step back. With rental income documented, I went back to the bank. The second property was a foreclosure, half finished, abandoned mid-renovation, exposed drywall, a kitchen that looked like a construction site frozen in time. People walked through it and shook their heads. I made an offer. I took a week off work and worked alongside the crew from sunrise to exhaustion. My hands blistered. My back ached constantly. But every day, the house moved closer to finished. 10 weeks later, it was unrecognizable. Modern, clean, desirable. It sold in 3 days. After everything cleared, the profit sat there on my screen. $137,000. I was 30 years old. I hadn't spoken to my parents in almost a year. Then the wedding invitation arrived. It was sent to my office, like they still didn't know where I lived. Mia's name was written in looping script. I didn't open it. I dropped it straight into the trash. I didn't feel angry. I felt focused. Because the girl they thought they pushed out had quietly learned something they never expected. She didn't need permission to rise. The first call came through my office line. I almost didn't answer. Nobody used that number unless they were a client or my manager. When I heard my mother's voice on the other end, thin and careful, it felt like someone had knocked on a door I'd already sealed shut. "Lauren," she said softly, "we've been trying to reach you. We miss you, your father. He's sorry about how things happened. Mia's getting married. She wants you there, as a bridesmaid." I closed my office door and leaned against it, staring at the wall. "I already have a home," I said evenly, "and I'm not interested in going back to old roles." There was a pause, the kind heavy with disappointment disguised as confusion. 2 weeks later, the second call came. This one didn't ask for anything. "Your dad had a heart attack," my mother said. "He's stable, but he's in the hospital." I didn't go that day, or the next. On the third day, I drove there and sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, hands resting on the steering wheel, arguing with myself. Finally, I went inside. My father looked smaller in the hospital bed, older than I remembered. My mother held his hand like she was afraid to let go. They cried, they apologized. They said words like mistake and family, and we want to make things right. I nodded. I asked how he was recovering. I said I was doing fine. I didn't mention houses, or rentals, or profits. I didn't owe them that version of me. A week later, they invited me to dinner. I agreed. Not because I believed anything had changed, but because I needed to see it with my own eyes. The house looked tired when I pulled into the driveway. The paint was peeling. The lawn was patchy. Inside, the wear was impossible to ignore. Furniture sagged. Cabinets hung loose. A faucet dripped steadily in the kitchen, each drop echoing louder than it should have. It felt like a house that had been held together by postponement. Dinner was polite, awkward, safe topics only. Nobody asked much about my life. They didn't need to. That wasn't why I was there. After dessert, my father cleared his throat. "Lauren," he said, "your mother and I have been talking. The house is too much for us now. Maintenance, expenses. It's becoming overwhelming." Here it comes, I thought. "We're considering selling," my mother added quickly. "But we thought maybe you'd want to buy it. Keep it in the family. We'd give you a good price." "What price?" I asked. $490,000, my father said. "It's worth more, but this would help all of us." I did the math instantly. They still owed a significant balance. Medical bills were piling up. Investments had failed. This wasn't reconciliation. This was rescue. "You asked me to leave this house," I said quietly. "Now you're asking me to buy it." Silence spread across the table. "We apologized for that," my mother said. "Yes," I replied. "And now you're asking me to solve the consequences." I left shortly after. No raised voices, no scene, just clarity. That night, I opened my spreadsheets and looked at what I'd built. Equity, cash flow, options. I wasn't surviving anymore. I was positioning. I made a call to the agent handling the Buckhead property, the one my father used to slow down for. I asked to see it again. I contacted a private lender. I leveraged my rental portfolio. I brought in a small partner to strengthen the deal. When the pre-approval letter arrived, the number felt unreal. I called my parents. "I've thought about your offer," I said. "I'm not buying your house, and I don't need family leverage to live." My mother started to speak. I didn't let her. "You pushed me out when it was convenient. I built everything I have after that. So thank you for forcing me to become who I needed to be." They had no response. Neither did I need one, because I wasn't choosing between family and ambition anymore. I was choosing myself. I submitted the offer on a Tuesday morning and didn't tell anyone. Not my parents, not my sister, not even friends. I negotiated quietly, methodically, like I'd learned to do with every deal that mattered. Back and forth, counter, inspection, adjustments. When we finally settled at just under $5 million, my hands trembled. Not from doubt, but from the realization that I was stepping into a world I had once only been allowed to admire from behind glass. During escrow, Mia called. Her voice was sharp, almost accusatory. "Do you even care what's happening to Mom and Dad? They're drowning. They could lose the house." "If they need money," I said calmly, "they can sell at market value. They don't need to guilt me into carrying it." There was a beat of silence. Then, quieter. "They offered it to you at a discount." I didn't answer right away. A week later, I drove past their old place and saw the listing sign. The price was higher than what they'd offered me. That told me everything I needed to know. The family price wasn't generosity. It was convenience. The day I received the keys, I sat in my car for a long minute, staring at them in my palm. Fear and exhilaration braided together in my chest. I had worked for this, every late night, every risk, every boundary I'd held, when it would have been easier to give in. I wasn't sneaking into a dream anymore. I owned it. I moved my belongings from the extended stay hotel that weekend. The house was large and echoing, rooms still bare. I liked it that way. Empty space felt honest. I could fill it slowly, deliberately, with choices that were mine. Sunday afternoon, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find my parents standing on the porch, frozen. My mother's voice trembled. "Lauren, what is this?" My father stared past me into the entryway, recognition washing the color from his face. "This is the house," he said. "The one in Buckhead?" "Yes," I said. "It is." Inside the kitchen, I poured water into glasses, the simple action grounding me. I told them plainly what I'd built. An investment company, multiple properties, partners, cash flow. No bragging, no apology, just facts. My mother asked the question she'd been circling since dinner months ago. "Where did you get the money to start?" I met her eyes. "I started with $43,000 I saved while living at home and contributing to this family. If I hadn't been pushed out, I might still be in a small room, paying bills and calling it loyalty." The words landed heavy. My father accused me of revenge. I shook my head. "I bought this house because I wanted it, because I could, because I won't let anyone else decide my worth." I told them the rules gently, clearly. I wasn't cutting them off. But any relationship going forward would be built on respect and equality, not obligation, not guilt, not convenience. The next morning, I woke early, brewed coffee, and stepped into the backyard as sunlight spilled across the patio. My phone buzzed with messages from partners, contractors, and tenants. Work, momentum, a life in motion. My parents texted later. I replied politely, briefly. The distance stayed. I don't call what I did revenge. Revenge is loud. This was quiet, intentional, necessary. I saved myself. And if you listened to this story from beginning to end, tell me what you thought. Did it resonate with you? What kinds of stories should I share next? Family boundaries, quiet resilience, or women rebuilding their lives after being underestimated? Leave a comment and let me know. And if you want to hear more stories from women who chose themselves, please like, subscribe, and stay with me for the next one.